Okay, great. So I'm back. Okay, so what do we have here? Let's take an example. Of course, now this example, these are just the steps, what you're going to do. I'm going to explain the steps within an example. So for example, what do I have here? I'm going to give a guest lecture. Okay, so I have a guest lecture. He's going to come to my university, for example, and he's going to present to the students and the faculty members. And so that is my objective. Going on, what are my plan elements? My plan elements is that I'm going to arrange a car so that they pick him or pick her up to bring them to the university to reach the venue. When they come in, they need to use the laptop. Okay. When they also come in, they want to present, they want to use the video projector. Okay, so let's go step by step. So they're coming on within the car. What could happen as a problem? The car breaks down. If the car breaks down, what should I do? Okay, so I'm going to put solutions, right? I'm going to hire a car. That means I have a backup of hiring a car, or I could take the public transport. Taking a public transport, that means it could be a taxi, it could be a bus. And imagine you have a guest lecture, and then you take him to a pub with a public transport to Gulf Hotel, and because and you had problems. Not all guest lecture accept that, by the way. Not all of them. And through my experience, most of them, they don't like that, and they don't accept taking a public transport. They want to feel as a privilege that they are treated, within a high level and so on. And this is part of reality with what we see around us. Okay, so what do we have here? So I'm putting an X on that because the small x, which is rejected, O is the optimum. So the X here, the small x, it means that this big X is the same, is exactly like that big X that you can see here. But what I'm adding this big X just to say that I'm not going to consider that solution. Okay, so I'm not going to consider that solution. So that is the idea. Okay, so what else do we have? Now let's go to the second plan element. Now this guy is going to come and use the laptop. Well, he came to use his laptop. He did not find the file, so he's going to use the CD. Okay, so sometimes we also add that he did not find the file. We already have a copy of the file, and this is what they do in the conferences. They already request from the guest lecture or from the presenter. They ask them to send them an email with the PowerPoint presentation, so that it is already on the laptop. Okay, so you can see that how you already can plan ahead just to have things in place. On using CD now, who uses CD? You can't talk about flash drive. Use laptop. A laptop fails to operate. So now you're talking about not the file is not found, but you're talking about the laptop which is not operating. So what you're going to do, you're going to ask the organizer for PC and use the CD. But the organizer, not sure, right? It could be, if, for example, University of Bahrain. So then our organizers, University of Bahrain. And talking about the organizer, University of Bahrain, will they have a spare laptop or not? They may not have a spare laptop, so you're not going to take that solution. Or it could be something else. It could be that you're talking about you went to the hotel, and in the Gulf Hotel they don't have a spare laptop, for example. It could be that this is acceptable. It could be that this is acceptable, or not. It depends on you. In this case, the example that I'm showing you, that they did not accept that part. They did not accept that part. And actually, I would have done something else and said that, have a laptop as a backup. Of course, when I take a laptop as a backup for guest lectures is accepted. But when you talk about a conference, this is difficult to accept. Why? Because for conferences, you may have, for example, 5 lectures, 6 lectures, they are running after each other. Sorry, they are running at the same time. So if you're talking about 5, 6 lectures at the same time, it's just to plan having a laptop as a spare for one laptop. You can say one laptop, okay. But if you're planning a laptop as a spare for every room, that could be too much and may not be possible to make it available for every room. So whatever, I'm just giving the examples. It's just an example, and this is why we are taking this example to understand the concept. So again, he can't reach the venue. We already said that you're going to hire a car if it breaks down. The guest lecturer is going to use the laptop, and we already said that we are going to use a CD to operate. If the laptop fails, there's no solution. In this case, they didn't put any solution for laptop fails, which is not accepted. I think so. We can put a solution here. Maybe some of you will say that can we put more than one solution here, and one is accepted and one is not accepted? Yes, you can do that. You can do that. So you can have like more than one solution, and then you accept, and then you have 2 accepted solutions, and you want to go for either one of them at the end of the day, or you are backing up yourself with the 2 solutions. Okay, so we are having a guest lecturer coming to the University of Bahrain or to the Gulf Hotel, for example. He goes there and he wants to present, and then the video projector does not work. Fine. This is the problem. Huh? This is the plan element. Again, this is the objective. This is the plan element. You can have additional plan elements. After the plan elements, you have the problem. The problem is that the video does not work. If the video does not work, you're going to use a whiteboard, or you're going to use an overhead projector. Okay, so using a whiteboard, talking about a PowerPoint presentation, and then you're telling the presenter to use a whiteboard is not accepted. So definitely this is not accepted. And of course, the backup of having an overhead projector will be a good solution. So you can see here that it's a very simple tool that opens or that helps you in the planning process for any kind of a process. It's very helpful as a tool. Let's take another example. You can see that I'm presenting examples today. I'm not taking an input from you. Maybe by the end I can take an example, but I'm trying to present the idea, because the idea needs some kind of a supportive explanation. And this example is in Spanish. I just put it for fun, and I'm not sure any of you understand anything there at all. Okay, so I'm sure you cannot understand something there. For me too. But here you have an objective, and then you have elements, and then the 2 main processes, and these processes that you have the plan elements, you're going to have problems. This problem or that problem, this problem or that problem, and so on. Then you're going to put solutions, okay, and putting the solutions or the countermeasures, and then you're going to accept some solutions or put an X for the solutions that you're not going to accept. Okay, so I just put it for fun. I'm not sure if some of you, at least one of you would know Spanish. I would guess. I would guess that. Okay, so that is an example. A lot of details there, but it's a good example because it has a different approach of using that process decision program chart, the PDPC, and looking at it. So the first thing what we want to do is that we want to improve the product design product quality and design. So generally, I want to improve the quality of my product. So, and one of those processes was to concentrate on the training part. طبعا, there could be other processes. So your PDPC could go in details to other processes. So if I want to if I want to improve the quality of the product, I can do this through training my quality engineers, and I can do it also through other options related to the product itself. So I'm not talking about the others. I'm taking one example of that, which is related to the training the quality engineers. Now, if we want to train the quality engineer, what are the details of that plan? It could be that we are going to ask every staff member to train himself or herself. So we ask them that you are responsible for yourself. Please self-study and get certificates. And by the way, this is something applied in many different companies. I mean, this thing here, it is applied in many different companies. And if you think about it, most of the ministries, الوزارات الحكومية, most of the ministries, they rely a lot on self-study. It had been changing in some other ministries, but there is a high dependency on people that they train themselves. And when I was in Ernst & Young, I provided some consultancy to Ernst & Young. It's one of the big companies in the world. Its branches in Bahrain. So we work with Ernst & Young Middle East. So they are standing here for the whole Middle East in Bahrain, and they had a process for self-study. And I started working with them so that I can organize that self-study and individual certification. And there are a lot of details. I don't want to get you lost on those details. So let's concentrate. So I want to train my quality engineer. So one of the processes is that everyone studies by himself or herself, and they get individual certification. Now, what are the problems related to that? It's very difficult to track the progress. Very difficult. And sometimes it's also, difficult to motivate. So it's not only tracking, it's also motivation. First thing, tracking. That means if I have 100 staff members, how can I track everyone by himself or herself? It's not easy. Yani, how can I track if of every of the 100 students or the 100 staff members that they are studying? They are studying to get a certificate. So it's very difficult to track. And if you talk about motivation, not all of them, they get motivated. To be honest with you, most of the staff members, you need to push them to get trained, because they are just happy from the moment that they leave the university and they say, that is in Bahrain, at least, خلاص, that is my last day of studying. I will not study at all my life. So people do say that, and some people don't. Of course, those who don't say that, that means they already have plans, or they are very motivated with learning, which is really good. But there are many people who need to be pushed. So again, what is the problem? It's difficult to track, difficult to motivate. So what should I do? I should have an oversight of individuals. Like, I need to follow all individuals. Following all individuals, that means there are a lot of logistics that needs to be done. Lots of logistics. That means I need to do a big system of follow-up, calling, asking them in a weekly basis. I don't know what I'm going to do. So there are a lot of logistics. Because there are a lot of logistics, this solution is not problem. So I'm not going to go through to this direction. So this direction is an X for me. Is an X. X for me, that means that I'm not going to accept this direction here, where I'm going to rely on people self-learn. Yeah, so right, they self-study and they self-learn. Not going to accept that process. Okay, so let's go to the next step. So what else could be a problem? Lack of benefit of interaction. That was one problem. So what is the second problem I could have here? Because it could be that I can achieve my self-study, but through a different process. Lack of benefit of interaction. Well, if everyone studies by himself, because I don't want to prevent people from studying by themselves, right? And it's also not right. We may not accept to follow everyone, but if they study by themselves and they get individual certificate, there's another problem is that they do not interact with each other. That means they don't have the benefit of people from different departments talk to each other. And if people don't talk to each other from different departments, you still have the solo individual work that is not linked, which is not really good. If you have this link, it always makes things much better. So what I want to say is that if I want to get rid of that problem or that risk, to bring students together periodically for discussion, I bring them together to discuss, and that is possible to do. So that means I'm accepting for people to self-study. I'm accepting people to self-study, but I cannot follow up on them. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to allow them to sit together and discuss. So that is one kind of a solution. Okay, there's one kind of solution to outweigh one of the risks that I have here. But I cannot outweigh the other risk. I cannot outweigh the other risk. You see, like we are very clear with ourselves that we have another risk, but we cannot do anything about it. And so that is one thing. What else do we have? I want to train the quality engineers. And to train the quality engineers, I'm going to obtain training from external resources or consultants, which they usually refer to as outsourcing. Okay, outsourcing. So I'm going to outsource my training. I'm going to sign an agreement with another company, a training institute in Bahrain, and tell them we have 100 people. 10 of them we want to train them on project management. Another 15 we want to train them on teamwork. We have also 20 people we want to train them on how to manage a meeting. And we have other 30 people who work in marketing that I also want them to be trained on. So I asked this company, and they are going to do the job of the training. Now, it could be that the cost is too high. And by the way, it is true that the cost is too high. It is true. And yeah, for example, like I train, that is my cost. Yani, I think I can reveal that. I don't have a problem. So I train 100 BD per person per day. Okay, so that is my cost. 100 BD per person per day. So if I train, for example, 10 people for 3 days, so that will be 10 multiplied by 100 multiplied by 3 days. Okay, it's just like a short course. I'm training them, and that is the 3,000. So that means training for 10 people for 3 days costs 3,000. It could be less expensive. Yani myself, maybe it's not a good measure because because there's one thing, they cannot maybe find someone who can do this job. They bought many people outside Bahrain. they could not succeed, so they bought me and they found out that it's successful. أنا مشكلة قاعد أمدح روحي. I don't mean that. So what I'm trying to say, at the end of the day, still the cost is too high. Even if it was this half of amount of that one is 1,500, that is still too high, because you want to train, for example, 100 people, and you want them to attend more than one training program, and not only for 3 days, it could be for 2 weeks, for example. And so the cost is too high. The cost is too high. When I started training, I still remember, like, I trained for about 3 days. It was much less than that. يعني. It was about يعني تقريبا 1,000 BD only. If I train 10 people for 3 days. But as time goes, you get more experience, people come to you, and then your cost goes higher. So what happens is that because cost is too high, I need to allocate funds. Okay, that is my solution. The problem is what? The problem is that if I have outsourcing, my plan element, the problem is that cost is too high. What is the solution? Allocate funds. Can you allocate funds? So that is the question to the company itself. Can I allocate funds? Maybe the answer is no. And in this case, it's very clear that they said no. Okay, they said no. And no means that they're not going to go through this direction. I mean, they cannot afford doing that. Now, there's another problem, is that when you bring people from outside, and this is what happened to many of the companies or universities, when they bring a consultant to Bahrain to advise them about quality matters related to universities, they do not understand the internal company systems, or they do not understand the internal requirements in Bahrain, which are different in some details from other countries. And because of that lack of understanding, the consultants that usually come outside Bahrain for the universities, they don't do a good job. So if you have lack of understanding of those people who you're outsourcing, they don't understand your company, the policies, your exact needs. They don't really know your exact needs. So what happens? What is the solution? That's a problem. What is the solution? The solution here written is that I'm going to train the external trainers. So those people that I outsource, I'm going to train them. Come on. And I'm going to hire people to do the job for me. Now I'm going to train that people so that they train me. It doesn't make sense, right? So this is costly, and it needs a lot of also logistics and scheduling, and we cannot do it. So in another way, so now this solution also cannot be done. And what happens here? If I allow for outsourcing, it's clear that there are two problems, and these two problems, they're not accepted because I cannot have the solutions for them, which means that this is not accepted as well. We cannot outsource. We cannot. So if I want to train a quality engineer, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to allow for self-study and for them to sit with each other. But I cannot track them. You can decide if you want to track them, you can. I'm just talking about this example in front of me. This example in front of me, they said that they cannot track them and they cannot motivate them. It has a lot of logistics. Okay, so they said that they're going to let them self-train and sit with each other so that it can get a benefit to one of the problems, that if they self-study and get individual reports, certificates. However, for outsourcing, I found out that it's very expensive and we cannot go through that. What about something else? If I want to train a quality engineer, I could use internal resources. And using internal resources, it's a good idea. So I'm going to use people inside my company. And this is what we do. For example, sometimes we have the peer tutoring. Peer tutoring. We say, we want students to teach other students. Okay, so we have students to teach other students. And what I'm doing here, instead of bringing a part-timer, which means outsourcing, this is in chemical engineering department. Instead of bringing a part-timer to teach CHENG460, I'm going to ask one of the students, which is part of my internal resources that I have, to teach the other students. So you can see that this is a beautiful solution that many companies and we as a university or chemical engineering department, we use our internal resources. Now, the first problem, if you think about, time commitment is too high. And the students who did peer tutoring, they already found out that it needs a lot of commitment, a lot of time. I still remember that I had, because students who peer tutored, they teach the students, and sometimes they support in, of course, they teach the students in the tutorial session, and they also correct the exams. When it came to correcting the exams, actually they used to correct the assignments only. They found out that it is very time consuming. It needs a lot of time commitment, especially that your internal resources are already working within the department. I'm talking about working as a staff member, or a student is also working as in the department as studying. So the time commitment is too high. What is the solution? Solicit management support, provided support, place on employees' objectives. Support could be what? If you're talking about staff members, for example, Bassam Al-Hamad, you're talking about staff member, you're using him as an internal resource to teach, to provide training programs. Instead of bringing people from outside, you have Bassam Al-Hamad to train other colleges. Okay, and so the time commitment is too high. So what they're going to do to Bassam Al-Hamad, they are going to tell him, instead of teaching 4 courses, we are going to let you teach only 2 courses. You see, so there is some kind of support here, and that they are helping me. They're taking some kind of they are taking tasks out of my hands and giving me other tasks to do. So this is one of the solutions that you can do. Now, talking about using internal resources, it's not only that the time commitment is too high, we already can solve this, but maybe you don't have the expertise within your universities. But if you don't have the expertise, many companies do that, by the way. They provide training. Then here it says provide training of presentation skills and training dynamics. Okay, it's not only that. And you could send a person a training to take a certain certificate related to safety, right? And after they take the certain certificate related to safety, they train all others. Okay, they train all the people that who are in the department. So what I'm trying to say here is that you can see that training one person and send him. Now you're not training, for example, 50 people here, which means you're going to pay for 50. You're only going to pay for one person, and that one person, you know that he's good enough or she's good enough that they're able then to train 50 people. So they have the capability of being a trainer. So what did we do here? We provided a solution. And this is all planned ahead. Planned ahead, that means now when I start my job, saying that I want to train the quality engineers. So when I start this job, when I'm going to start the job, I already have in plan that I'm going to allow for self-study, and I'm going to plan for them to sit together. And I'm not going to outsource. I'm going to train people from inside my resources, and I know which training sessions they're going to train so that they can train the others. Okay, so we train the trainer so that trainer can teach other students. Or we already have an eye of trainers who are already ready in place we just need to take some kind of commitment out of their hands to give them other tasks so that they can take that in commitment to train others. So that is a very beautiful example. And this is the way of how we are trying to accept accept this optimum, or to decline this action because it is not acceptable and we cannot go through it. But if you are the quality manager, maybe you change your mind. This is applicable to the example in front of me. This is what they decided. Maybe you decide something else. Great. So any questions to this example, because I have spent some time, but I just want to make sure that you understand it. عندكم أي سؤال؟ Okay, I don't hear any questions, so I can go and continue on. So I have another example as well. I'm going to take only one tool. I think it's always better to concentrate on one tool in one lecture. I was planning to take two different tools, but then I said that I'm just going to provide more examples for you so that you grasp the idea. Fine. This is like one of the solutions that students do within the exam, in which I ask them to plan a vacation. And for planning a vacation, of course, they start putting the elements. So they said, if I want to plan a vacation, I want to make a good choice. And of course, there could be others. Okay. And then I ask them only to concentrate on one of them. So now if I want to make a good choice, I want to go to Turkey, for example. Even when you go to Turkey, you want to ask, I want to go to Istanbul or Trabzon or whatever. Okay, so for example, because I was discussing yesterday about this issue. So if I want to go to Trabzon, for example, now that is a vacation site. We'll come to the details. When I want to go. Okay, so choose vacation dates. These are the elements, the details of my plan. So that is my plan. And now this is like plan elements that I'm planning for. I'm going to choose a vacation date. Okay, and I want to choose the hotel. And there are more details. I also want to choose the car, for example, and you can go on. So these are all plan elements. Now, if I want to choose the vacation site, we may not agree. It could be that all sites already full. And it's impossible for all sites to be already full. So
connecting is okay.
Okay, so all sites already full. So you already can take an action, putting a solution if they are already full. Okay, and we are not agreeing. Agree, that means someone says, La wallah, we want to go to Thailand. Another person, we want to go to Indonesia. A third person, he wants to go to New York, for example. And by the way, New York is not that beautiful as you would expect. Whatever, let's go on. It depends on the person again, right? It depends on the person. We may not agree. But what errors do I have here? I have errors in this figure here. So the student did not put a countermeasure for everything by itself. So that is like -2 or something like that. And so there's an error here. So there is an error that the student did here. Another error for students, they did not add which one to accept and which one to refuse. Okay, so that is something else as well. Why I'm adding these figures in front of you, just to tell you that please try to apply the PDPC tool correctly, and be careful not to fall into those simple errors here. Okay, so that is one of the things. So he said here, start discussing sites early. Okay, so that is like one of the solutions, and we did not decide, we are going to discuss it. Okay, I don't know if that is a good solution or not. Let's see the vacation date, for example. So I want to go in July 1st. As can't get time off work. That means you tried to getting time off work, but you couldn't. It's possible, صح? And talking about vacation approaches, get too busy to leave. And this is another problem that could happen. And another problem that you could face when you select your vacation date, you also select a date that everyone wants to go. So these are all possible problems that could happen. Now, not all of them will have a same solution. While can't get time off work, you may need to apply now earlier. You want to apply earlier for vacation, for holiday, right? So that is, which means you need to do some kind of coordination with your colleagues, with other staff members within the same department, telling them that I want to take holiday in this period. So you coordinate with others. Now, busy, sometimes it becomes really busy before you leave, and you cannot go for vacation. So now you want to put another action here, just to make sure that you have a checklist of everything that you should do before you leave, so that you make sure that when it approaches to that vacation, you don't have a problem. Now, because it is a very crowded time, you may choose an off-peak date here. That is the solution here. So what I'm trying to say here, that again, there's a problem that they did not here it was not clear that which one is accepted and which one is not. Okay, here I just put an X here because busy before I leave. Imagine that you come busy before you leave, and then you say to your kids and you say to your family, "Khalas, we are not going to go for vacation." It's not accepted, right? It's totally not accepted, and maybe you will think that you will not think about it. Okay, you will not think about this risk because you don't consider it as a risk. It will not happen. Or if you consider it as a risk, and you will accept your action that you're going to take, that you're going to have a checklist and so on. So and so on. There could be more and more examples that you can find on the internet, and you just go on. That's all. And do you have any question? I think so. We are up, and we already have our next tool for Tuesday, inshallah. So any question for this tool?
No, thank you.
Great. I think so. It's a very simple tool, which means I mean, I can guess because I don't have any questions. But I hope that you like the tool. By the way, it is used within any simple planning, and not that strategic planning. This is like for more applications planning that has something that is directly to an application, as you can see here. It's not a strategic planning for 3-4 years. So the PDPC is a good decision process. Is for you to decide. So you're planning, you're putting a process, and you're deciding what to do. But it is not good for strategic planning. Strategic planning, you have other tools. Okay, so I just want to mention that this PDPC is very useful, and you'll find it useful in your life. يعطيكم العافية. Great, and see you inshallah on Tuesday. الله يعطيكم العافية.